Hey, sixth grade. This is Mr. Bajer. I'm going to be reading I Am Malala by Malala Yousafzai. For you guys to follow along, go into McMillan's Google Classroom, click on the April 6th post entitled I Am Malala PDF novel. Once you're there, click on the link and it should pull up a PDF.
Chapter 9 Candy from the Sky. One day in the autumn of 2007, we were sitting in class when we heard a fearsome roaring from outside. Everyone, students and teachers, ran out to the courtyard to look up. A swarm of giant black army helicopters darkened the sky overhead. They whipped the wind around us and stirred up a storm of dirt and sand. We cupped our hands over our ears and tried to yell at one another, but our voices were being drowned out. Then there was a plunk as something landed on the ground at our feet. Plunk, plunk, plunk. We screamed and then we cheered. Toffees! The soldiers were tossing candy down to us. We laughed our heads off as we scrambled to catch toffees. We were so delighted. This actually took us a minute to realize what was really going on. The army had come to rescue SWAT from Fazullah. We cheered and clapped and jumped up and down. Candy was falling from the sky and peace would be coming to SWAT. Soon soldiers were everywhere. Helicopters were even parked on the Mingora golf course. It was strange to see the army and SWAT. So we'd been praying for someone to stand up to Fazullah and his men with their black turbans and Kalashnikov rifles, but now our town was swarming with men in green uniforms and Kalashnikov rifles. Practically overnight, Fazullah's men disappeared, like snow melting into the ground. But although we could not see them anymore, we know they hadn't gone far, only a few kilometers away, and Mingora remained a tense and frightened city. Each day after school, my brothers and I would race home and lock the doors. No more playing cricket in the alley, no more hide-and-seek in the street, no more candy from the sky. One evening, we heard an announcement from the loudspeakers atop the mosque. The army had imposed a curfew. We didn't know this word, curfew, so I knocked on the wall to Safina's house to someone next door who could come to the hole and explain. Soon Safina and her mother and brother came to the house and told us it meant we had to stay indoors for certain hours of the day and always at night. My brothers and I were so scared we didn't even come out of our rooms. We stayed inside and peered through the curtains at the empty street in front of our house. That night, a streak of bright white light flashed across the sky, lighting the room for a second, like a flashbulb on a camera. Boom! A thud shook the ground. I jumped out of bed and ran to my parents. Kushal and Atal came running to join us. We had huddled together, shaking. The dishes clattered, the furniture shook, and the windows rattled. Then, within minutes, the army's gunfire began in the outskirts of the city. With each blast and shout, we gripped one another harder until we drifted off to sleep. The next morning, we woke up as if we were coming out of a long, fitful dream. After a night full of bombing, the air seemed oddly still, we dared to hope. Was it possible that the army had defeated the Taliban? We peeked out the gate and saw knots of people from the neighborhood gossiping. My father went to find out what had happened. He came back inside, frowning. The rumor on the street? The Taliban were going to take control of SWAT. The military operation was ineffective. Our hearts sank. The army sent 10,000 more men, and the fighting raged on, night after night, for a year and a half. I was always the first to run to our parents, and my brothers quickly followed. And since the bed was now too crowded, I had to sleep on a pile of blankets in the floor. Even in the middle of a war, I was able to be irritated with those two for stealing my spot. Strange as it sounds, we got used to the bombing and shelling. Sometimes Atal stepped through it. And Kushal and I came up with a system to figure out where the fighting was. If the fighting was nearby, the electricity went out. But if it was further away, the power stayed on. There were 3 types of attacks, and we learned to distinguish them. Bombing was done only by the Taliban, sometimes by remote control, but other times by suicide bombers. Shelling from helicopters and cannons fired from the mountaintops was the army. The third type, machine guns, was used by both. I used to get afraid at night, especially during bomb blasts. From my spot on the floor in my parents' room, I recited a special verse from the Holy Quran, the Ayat al-Kursi. Say it 3 times and your home will be safe from devils and any kind of danger. Say it 5 times and your neighborhood is safe. Say it 7 times and your whole town is safe. I said it 7, 8, 9 times. So many times I lost track. Then I spoke to God. Bless us and protect us, I'd say. Bless our father and family. Then I correct myself. No, bless our street. Bless our neighborhood. Bless all of SWAT. Then I'd say, no, bless all of Pakistan. No, not just Pakistan. Bless all the world. I tried to plug my ears and picture my prayers floating up to God. Somehow, each morning, we awoke safe and sound. I didn't know the fate of all the other people I'd prayed for, but I wished for peace for everyone, and especially peace for SWAT. One day, my prayer was answered. The army hadn't won, but we had at least driven the Taliban into hiding. Alright, guys, moving on to Chapter 10 next. Remember to log into Google Classroom and complete McMillan's TDQ. Bye, guys.